everybody, and welcome back to the Next Level Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Leslie. We've got a goodie episode again today. We are talking a little bit carnivore diet again, but this is really focused more on intermittent fasting, the benefits of it, and what we need to do as women to modify our intermittent fasting, because this really is an important discrimination between men and women and how our bodies work and how intermittent fasting benefits us and or can be a risk. I really wanted to do an intermittent fasting episode because this is outside of carnivore, and whether you have a high or low carb diet, it really is a staple for any type of health, regeneration, anti-aging. So you all know that I'm very much against this whole aging process is normal for humans. It's really not. I mean, more and more as I research and listen to these very interesting podcasts and TV shows, and just from the people that I meet, there are many people all over the world that are really defying this, quote, aging process that we all think is normal and natural. I've unsubscribed to aging. I'm going to be 28 at the cellular level forever. I may chronologically age, but I will not subscribe to the aging process. And as I've really taken on this belief system and embodied it, more and more evidence and information to support that sort of arresting of time is coming about. So intermittent fasting is something that I started when I took on the carnivore diet. And I hate using the word diet because it's not a diet. It really is a lifestyle change, but people use it as, diet as a meal approach. So let's just, understand when I say diet, I'm saying meal approach, lifelong thing, not just a short-term fix that you will then stop and then have all the rebound problems after, okay? So intermittent fasting, again, with or without carnivore, is really beneficial to your health. We've been studying this for many years, and I wanted to sort of give everybody a little bit of a brush up on the benefits of intermittent fasting so you can take that forward as a major regenerative, restorative, anti-aging toolkit, life hack for your lives, okay? So intermittent fasting, basically, in short, is cyclic pattern of eating and fasting, basically. And there's different ways that you can do that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. I've mentioned a few ways in other podcasts. Essentially, there are some substantial benefits. We'll go through each single one of them. Again, whether you're carb or keto based, but as you'll see, when you use intermittent fasting, particularly with keto, there are substantial benefits that really supercharge that actually, when you're using intermittent fasting with carb-based diets, can actually be detrimental and cause more problems. So please stay tuned for all of those. All right, so why fasting? Well, it really is natural. It's part of our human evolution. When we were basically Neanderthals, the very beginning of our human-ish existence, we would intermittent fast just because that's how we hunted and found our prey. But it even evolved over time that was had positive health benefits. That's what allowed us to evolve to who we are today, because we had that intermittent fasting potential. We were satiated. It allowed our bodies to stay without inflammation. It allowed ourselves to heal in between our episodes of feasting or eating. So again, people really forget that intermittent fasting was a natural part of our human evolution. It is what got us here today, and we were disease-free. If we were as sick as we were when we were primitive humans, we would be extinct a long time ago. Like, we're just so dumb as humans these days from all the stuff that we think about, and in terms of eating and nourishing our body, or really the lack of. So we have so much more disease than we ever did. We literally would not have evolved if we didn't have intermittent fasting, and we have the literature and data to support that. So those of you who are skeptical of even just, where intermittent fasting came from, it's actually why you're here. Your primal human beings, pre-human beings, actually were intermittent fasting without them even intending to. Now we can make those choices because we're more advanced. And let's get into why you should be considering it, particularly with keto. So intermittent fasting totally and fully supports fat burning. Okay, who wants to be a fat ass? Not me. Okay. I don't. Lana, do you? No. I mean, I like big butts and I cannot lie.
I
All the other
want a
brothers
fat
can't
ass.
deny. When a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get sprung. But I don't want that fat ass like big.
I thought you was going to keep going, girl.
I was going to keep going.
I didn't know Dr. Leslie had soul like that.
Oh, that's no soul. Side note, when my daughter, when she was younger and she would try to embarrass me, I don't get embarrassed. When she would act like a fool in public and get all sassy, I would say, girl, I will bust it out. And that's all I had to say. And Mom, no. Oh my God, you're so embarrassing. Smarten up. And then she'd sass me. And I'm like, I get down and my my hands are on my legs and I just rock my butt in the middle of Target. I like big butts. And she's like, oh my God, Mom, you are so embarrassing. So we like big butts. We don't want to be fat asses. Okay, there's a difference. And I'm going to define the difference in Dr. Leslie's dictionary of made-up words. These aren't made up, but these are definitely my necessary definitions. So big butts and fat ass is different. I don't want to be fat. And so the intermittent fasting really helps supercharge your fat burning. So basically, after your body is burned up of all of its sugar, right? If you are on a high carb diet or even a modest carb diet, that like never ends up happening. So you're always burning carbs and you will never burn fat. Just FYI, you're never going to burn those brown fat pads in those trouble areas so long as you're having carbohydrates over 50 grams a day. And, probably over 20 grams. No carbs is really best. But so the fat from those stubborn areas, they end up basically getting turned into ketones. When, again, the key here is when you've stopped, when your body has no more carbohydrates left. So all of that liver, it's done. Everything in your bloodstream is gone. It's like, okay, where am I going to feed myself? It goes to ketones. So they start eating up those little, the banana roll that the girls hate, the saddlebags, the muffin tops, this, front boob fat and the middle fat. It gobbles it up, turns it into ketones. Ketones basically are used for fuel, and they burn at a much slower rate than sugar. So you get more satiated from fats, obviously, than the sugars. As your body sort of adapts to being more of a fat burning machine, it actually becomes much more efficient because it's like, oh, dude, I don't have the crashes. I've got this constant state of fuel all the time. I'm satiated. I've got, all the other benefits, which we'll talk about. It really adapts and it likes using ketones. It gets much more efficient saying, oh, carbs are done. Let's pull the fat from those stubborn areas. That's why they're there. We keep the little stubborn fat areas for that survival mode when we were like pre-humans. And so we can keep ourselves really nice and lean and trim much more easily when we're doing the intermittent fasting. Studies also support basically that it's like fully able to reduce fat and weight loss and reduce obesity. Obviously, obesity is fat ass, right? I mean, sorry, that's politically incorrect. Oh my God, I'm so being canceled. But in my definition, I mean, if we're being real, right? We're being real. So I'm all about being real and raw and, it is what it is. But I'm also very compassionate and non-judgmental. I would never say that to any of my clients or coaching. This is just me talking out loud to myself. Okay, so the next thing is cellular renewal and repair. So the research has shown that intermittent fasting supports a process called autophagy. Okay, it's basically when the cells break down. So every day your body is constantly breaking down and regenerating tissue. So it's taking all the old cells, the damaged cells, all those cells that are just not functioning quite right, and it recycles them and uses them for energy. When the body has time to rest completely, this process is enhanced. So when you intermittent fast, your body literally gets into this quiet mode that allows your body to supercharge this. It's just like, oh my God, this bitch is not doing anything. She's not eating. She's not putting any aspartame in me or food or sugar. Oh my God, now we can do what we are normally and naturally supposed to do, which is regenerate, rejuvenate, repair, and heal. Not age, okay? AKA, we don't have to age the way people think. So Intermittent fasting is a huge piece of this cell regeneration and repair. When I've talked about oxalates and all of the other chemicals in fruits and vegetables that are killing us, when we sleep, which is actually part of when intermittent fasting happens, so you will fast after your dinner, whenever that is, for whatever period of time, and we'll talk about that, how long that is, that generally happens over the time when you're sleeping. So because you don't need to be eating, you can't eat. I mean, I don't know anyone who eats and sleeps at the same time unless they're sleepwalking, and that doesn't count. That's a whole other conversation. But when you're sleeping, you're supposed to be regenerating. And when you have oxalates and all these toxins in your body, you can't do that. Hence why carnivore is something that I generally recommend and promote for people who are ready and at that stage in their personal evolution and their self-mastery, because carnivore really is an integral part of my self-mastery program for people because of not just these benefits, but there's one in particular that is going to make complete sense for everybody why it's so important to my program. But you really want to maximize your ability to regenerate at nighttime. So no oxalates plus the cellular repair of intermittent fasting, you are on a very, very amazing trajectory to anti-aging, to reversing and repairing yourself, okay? This also increases stem cell production. Yeah, that's a big fucking deal. Intermittent fasting resets your immune system by allowing your body to switch into repair mode, like we just talked about. Fasting is shown to increase stem cells in the intestines, the muscles, the brain, while preserving long-term ability for the stem cells to regenerate independently. So you don't have to go and stick a whole bunch of stem cells through IV in your body, which is not even legal here in the country. But, you know, I've heard back when stem cells first came out, people were trying to do that stuff. You can actually stimulate your own stem cells by this process. When fasting, our bodies greatly reduce our energy expenditure, which shrinks our tissue, our organs, and different populations in our bloodstream. So our white blood cells actually, our counts change. So everything really, again, it gets really calm and it allows the body to stimulate our own stem cell production. Like, that's a huge deal. Again, why are we going and injecting other strangers' stem cells? God knows who they were. I mean, drug addicts and, you know, whatever, all their stem cells into our body. Just produce your own, maximize your own, and then allow your body to regenerate itself independently. I mean, right? Sounds pretty cost effective and brilliant to me. So intermittent fasting offers you that opportunity. It also reduces inflammation. Okay, so chronic inflammation is the root of disease, period. That's it. Next. I mean, really, when you have a lot of inflammation in your body, which happens from sugar and consuming too much at one time, your inflammation pathways just go through the roof, and so does chronic inflammation and acute inflammation. And I mean, it's just, there's so many diseases that we'll talk about in a minute here that are linked to inflammation. So intermittent fasting improves your physical and mental health and reduces pretty much every disease, because almost every disease is inflammatory related. It improves your overall energy as well. So the fat adapted individuals, so people who are on ketosis or keto type diets or meal plans, it improves their mitochondria breakdown. So the mitochondria is this little tiny energy. It's like the little train that could. It's just chugging. It's in every single one of your cells. It's the metabolizing center. It fuels. It takes all of that energy, and it are all the sources of energy, and it turns it into energy, and it basically makes the cell go. So this intermittent fasting improves the breakdown. So it destroys, again, the actual mitochondria, not just the cells like we talked about earlier, but it actually breaks down the mitochondria inside and recycles and regenerates it faster. So it's like having a car and having like a brand new engine every day. That's pretty cool, right? Like, or a fuel injection system. You don't have the wear and tear. You constantly have a new mitochondria firing. It's always efficient. It's always effective. It's burning. So, as your little car that's trying, or that little train that could, it's like chugging up the hill. It just doesn't have the same ability because it's getting old. So when you constantly have this mitochondria regenerating itself, you're always going to be in a peak state. Every one of your cells in every part of your body is going to be on its maximum ability to metabolize and function. So that's a huge, huge benefit of intermittent fasting as well. It also supports gut health. So feasting breaks allow the gut to heal. So feasting and fasting, right? It allows, again, as we talked about, the tissue repair in the gut, and but there's other benefits too. I've talked about in a prior podcast with Mandy White about the gut-brain axis. So we're discovering more and more about this communication between the gut and the brain, and how the gut, it's the root of everything. I mean, if your gut is not healthy, you're going to be inflamed, you're going to be tired, all sorts of problems are going to happen. The gut is your second brain. There's so many neurotransmitters too. So when you have this intermittent fasting, it keeps the bowel nice and clean, low inflammation, very smooth. It's optimum functioning. It gives it a chance to rest and heal. So a lot of people have leaky gut syndrome and, just dysbiosis basically in their bowels. It can be repaired by intermittent fasting. It just allows it to heal. So I had a really, really bad case of leaky gut syndrome when I was 19. So much so I was basically bedridden. I was 8 months out from getting married, and I did a night shift as a nurse. And I remember laying in bed until 2 p.m. and I called my mom and I was crying. I am so sick. I have this black hole feeling in my gut and I feel so drained. I could barely get up and go to the bathroom. I didn't understand what was happening to me. Amazingly, as the stars aligned and the universe was on my side, I was able to serendipitously a few days later go with my mom to this Mother of the Bride shop where she wanted to buy a dress all the way on the other side of town. We would never go. And found this woman who basically, she worked there and she said, oh, you got to go see this naturopath. She will fix you. She's got this quirky little machine that will tune you up. Basically, what I discovered is that all the foods that I was eating were so, so bad for me. My gut was just swollen and inflamed. And when I started to understand more about my bowels back then when I was 19, a gazillion years ago, I really, from personal experience, know the trauma and the pain, firstly of chronic fatigue and the bloating and how debilitating it can be, but how much the bowel really affects everything. I couldn't think clearly. I didn't have the energy. I basically lost my life, my ability to have any kind of quality. So intermittent fasting is a very, very good adjunct therapy to people who have leaky gut, as well as maybe herbs, and making sure you find out what foods might be causing your challenge. It also improves insulin sensitivity. So too much sugar obviously causes the body to pump out tons of insulin so the cells can use that sugar, right? So you're eating sugar and your pancreas is like, oh my God, she just ate a chocolate bar, Lana, at Halloween. And then the cells are like, oh my God, okay, the insulin's like knocking on my door. And you like open the door and you let the sugar come in. Over time, when you eat so much sugar, insulin is knocking on your door like nonstop. It's like that trick-or-treater that just won't stop, right? And you're just like, fuck off. Like, stop knocking on my door. I don't want any more sugar. We're full. We are full. We don't have any room for you. But so then eventually what happens to everybody when you have someone knocking on your door? You tune out. So you become desensitized. So when insulin is knocking on your door saying, we have a ton of sugar here because dumbass ate another chocolate bar, your cells are going to be like, no, I don't think so. And then you have all this sugar circulating in your bloodstream, being sticky, creating inflammation and all sorts of problems. And then that sugar has to get stored somewhere. So hello, stubborn fat areas. You just created a muffin top. All right. So as Lana is eating a chocolate bar right now, laughing, she's gargling chocolate in her mouth right now. Thank you. So anyway, it improves. She's still giggling. So intermittent fasting improves insulin sensitivity by giving your body a break. Like literally your cells are going to be like, holy shit, there's no one knocking at my door. We can like do shit now. We don't have to like worry about, we can actually open a window. We can get some fresh air in here because insulin isn't going to or sugars are going to just jump through and like poison us again.
It's
so
like when you have a substitute teacher.
What's that?
It's like when you have a substitute teacher.
A substitute teacher.
Yeah.
That's a great one too. Yeah, that's great.
To bully them.
Okay, I'll try and work the substitute teacher into another metaphor. That's good. So anyway, we want to give ourselves a break from the insulin. So not only will we get the break completely if you go to a keto diet, so that is going to be hugely beneficial, as we talked about, with reducing blood sugar and actually getting people their diabetes, I'm not saying cured, but it will, although some people may have had that experience, but it will improve your insulin need and your diabetes severity and that sort of thing. So really, really important for those of you who are pre-diabetic or diabetic to use intermittent fasting. You just have to be careful and do this under the advice of your clinician because you don't want to bottom yourself out. As you intermittent fast, you will have to adjust your insulin levels and possibly your medication like very quickly because this happens rapidly. Really, really rapidly, your body responds to this change, whether you're doing keto or just intermittent fasting. You do both of them together, look out. The results will be staggering. So you need to make sure you're under the care of a healthcare professional when you embark on this with those situations. It obviously lowers risk of chronic disease. We talked about the inflammation pathways, specifically diabetes, heart disease, metabolic syndrome, hormone issues, infertility, yes, autoimmune disease, and cancer. So I was researching through this, and there's a lot of cancers, obviously, that are inflammation. I mean, it is. When you have sugar, it just feeds the cells. When you starve the cancer cells of sugar, it's just like what happens. They start to shrink, right? So there is an abundance of literature that is supporting keto diets or keto type of process plus intermittent fasting with cancer treatments. So really powerful, really, really powerful. Hormone issues, I can attest to this myself. So I've talked to people before. I actually had Dan Holtz on my podcast. We were talking about my hormones. And I was only a few months into my carnivore diet, if that, when I had him on the show. And I'm like, okay, maybe I have to do hormones. Like, I don't want to have to do hormones. I'm not that age. But I was having this breakout here after the car accident I had. And I was on and off spironolactone for hormonal acne. Like, look at this face. It is so clear. And I don't have the melasma breakouts. It is absolutely insane. So I've been on this carnivore diet using the intermittent fasting for many, many, many months now. It completely cleared up my acne. I don't have the hormonal dysregulation I did before. I actually started getting like the breast tenderness I used to before I even had my kids. You know, I'm starting to get back like PMS too. I noticed, Lana, I'm like, why the hell am I fucking hormonal? Like I'm like PMSing like a bitch. And I was like, oh, I'm PMSing like a bitch. That hasn't happened in like over a decade. It was so crazy. I'm like, I should be mad, but I wasn't because I know my hormones are back. I'm back in business, baby. No pre-menopause here. It's not happening. So I have personally realize the effects of the hormone benefit of not just intermittent fasting, but carnivore together. So again, they just supercharged each other. So bam, ageless forever. Mic drop. Okay. Intermittent fasting also improves relationship with food. Okay. This is a big one for all of my women out there and those handful of men that have a tendency towards eating disorders. We're seeing more and more of them with social media and all these, you know, the pressure for men to up their game. It can be very difficult for people who have struggled with eating disorders in the past to do intermittent fasting because it can predispose you to sort of an anorexic type of process because you don't fast for a certain period of time. And then what happens, particularly for people who are on carb-based diets, your carb cravings go up, your hunger goes up, your satiety is down because you're not getting the fats, and then you overeat, and then you're in this binge cycle. Now you've created a binge eating disorder. Or you end up, you know, because you're not getting satiated from the fat, you end up having the emotional eating, or you have these, breakthrough, like midnight snacking or closet eating. A lot of people will end up like snacking in their cars. You want to know if someone's a closet eater? Check their car. Seriously, all of the candy wrappers are going to be there. That's where people do it. They hide. And most people will binge eat in their vehicles, sometimes in the bathroom, but mostly the vehicles, because it's like a solitary place. So you have to be really careful intermittent fasting when you're on a carb diet, because carbs will not satiate you. And so your tendency to eat more food is going to increase. And without the ability to shut off there's two different hormones, ghrelin and leptin. Leptin is responsible for satiety, being satiated, satiety. You risk not getting that. And so you can eat and eat and eat, and then it's counterintuitive to what you're trying to achieve. There is actually research, and I think I hit on it a little bit further down, but when you eat a bunch of sugar after a period of fasting, you actually increase your chances of getting cancer. It's really mind-blowing, because you are supercharging your cells with a bunch of sugar. So any benefit you got from the intermittent fasting can actually be almost negated, but also worsened because of the influx of the sugar and how much it inflames and it swells the cells and all the other cascade of inflammation that happens in the body. So you have to be very, very careful intermittent fasting when you have a high carb diet, or you have a tendency to binge eat. You're really going to actually be doing more harm than good. So please, please make a note of that. That's why when you do carnivore with intermittent fasting, you're actually getting such a positive benefit, because you're never going to get that sugar rush. You're never going to get the inflammation and all of that cancer inflicting BS that we're trying to avoid, as well as you won't get the aging effects. So intermittent fasting with carnivore really is your key to longevity here, if I haven't said that 9 times enough. Okay, the last two I really want to focus on. Intermittent fasting boosts growth hormone. So there was a study of 200 participants that showed that fasting for 14 hours increased HGH by 2,000% in men and 1,300% in women. So human growth hormone is essential for building, maintaining, and repairing healthy tissue in the brain, bones, and other organs, while speeding up healing after injury, in the muscles or whatever. So human growth hormone basically boosts your metabolism hugely and helps tissue grow. So again, as we talked a little bit about anti-aging, they say HGH declines with age. Okay, since I don't participate that and I don't think it's a natural part of aging process, then what's going on? So the intermittent fasting actually halts that aging process. Like I said, HGH has shown to slow the aging process. So it's actually documented. Particularly, it helps repair and prevent the aging process being seen in the skin, reducing the sagging and wrinkles. So of course it happens on the inside too, but in this particular study, they were a little vain, as I can be at sometimes. So you can actually see it on the outside as well. The last major important thing here is intermittent fasting increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So BDNF, we'll just refer to this as the factor. It's a naturally occurring growth hormone responsible for neurogenesis. That's creating new nerves. Okay, so this is a hot topic for me because everybody knows that I am so brain conscious. Our nervous system, our brains, our mental health, if we don't have healthy nerves, we're not going to be able to think and feel and experience life properly. And who cares about self-mastery at this point? If you can't even think properly, if your brain isn't working properly, how are you going to be able to create and be, the God experiencing itself in this world that you're supposed to be, right? So there's a Harvard neuropsychiatrist, John Ratey, deemed this factor a miracle grow for the brain. So intermittent fasting leads to better moods, higher cognitive ability, more productivity, better memory, while decreasing the risk for neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And guess what is one of the big things Tango also helps with? Reducing Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Like there's so much here that we can do to prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. And I meet so many people, oh, my father has Parkinson's, my, mother has Alzheimer's. There are real legit things, research-based, that we can do right now to literally reduce severity, not just prevent it, but reduce symptom severity. Tango reduces severity of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and so does intermittent fasting. Pretty wild and amazing stuff. So we don't know exactly how intermittent fasting boosts this factor, but they suspect it has something to do with its helping rapidly create new neural networks. And so this is the caveat. This is the most important thing I want that ties into my self-mastery, my Live Your Mastery program and paradigm and everything that I'm trying to share with people. Everything that we do and be is connected, right? Our mind, our interconnection, our connection to this sort of consciousness that drives us, where our inspiration, our ideas come from, our brain, our physical function, and our thoughts, right? They're all connected. Our self-mastery and our ability to achieve our best, most amazing life, we have to have all three of those pillars of health mastered. We have to have them clean and clear. So when you create neural pathways, new neural pathways, you can make them immediately in fight or flight response. When an emergency happens, your brain is firing, new networks get created in your brain, and bam, a new pathway is created. So when you have intermittent fasting, it actually improves your ability to create new neural pathways. So let's just think about this, okay? And this is why I'm bringing intermittent fasting and carnivore into my entire transformation, my total transformation system, because intermittent fasting allows the brain to create new neural pathways. Not only is your brain going to be lubricated because you have all these fatty, beautiful cells that are healthy and renewed. You have your hormones regulated. You have an abundance of health and vitality from just the hormones. You have oh, sorry, I was getting a call. Oops. You have all of this. You have all this tissue that's basically being regenerated and fatty and beautiful and ready to be utilized through this intermittent fasting. And then you say, you know what? I want to create a new belief system. This belief system that I identified is fucking up my life. I want to change it. Your ability to change your belief systems, which change your thoughts, which change your behaviors, which change your life, is going to be enhanced. And that's exactly what's happened to me. And I've explained this, and now there's actually research to support it. This particular factor with intermittent fasting that's supported by a carnivore diet and this ketosis and all the fat you're getting is actually going to help you think better and transform your life, because you're going to be able to create the neural pathways and say, nope, I'm not addicted to this anymore. Nope, I choose not to believe this. Nope, this is what I'm doing with my life. And you'll have so much more conviction and power behind you to be able to do it. So this is all research-based. It's really phenomenal. And it all comes together. All three pillars of your being can work so seamlessly and beautifully. And so obviously intermittent fasting is an important part of my program for myself and what I share with other people because of these many benefits, particularly this one. Because let's face it, belief systems and the power of our mind are critical. If we don't have that optimized, we're not going to be able to achieve wonderful and magical things in our life. So that is it for the benefits. I do want to just say women have to be very, very careful using intermittent fasting because they can get hypoglycemic very fast. Their bodies are much more sensitive to calorie restriction and the eating disorder thing we talked about. So we need to be very careful. I usually recommend women, they either do sort of a brunch fast, which is 14 hours, which I like to do, or maybe do a 16-hour fast 2 to 3 days a week. So not consecutive days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of thing. Or if your body can handle it, you can do just day 12 to day 16 of your cycle, which is where you ovulate, and or the last week of your period, last week of your cycle before your period. so that you can optimize your estrogen and progesterone. We really need to make sure that we have enough hormones because our bodies will shut down and go into that starvation mode, and that's not going to be good. Our bodies are very, very sensitive to the stressor because intermittent fasting is a stress. And so we don't want to overexert it. So women, be very, very careful. If you have any questions, you know where to find me about how to do the intermittent fasting. For women, guys, you're so lucky. You can fast every fucking day if you want to. So good luck to you. Ladies, we can talk. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. We got a lot of information in. I gave you a little bit of my own 2 cents. And we'll see you next time with some more good information.